A local man thinks he's got the ideas on how we can end hunger and improve our economy at the same time. And when somebody's got that kind of a brainstorm, they are welcome to my state of mind. I am Dan York. It is a pleasure to have you aboard. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up. I wish you a Merry Christmas. We're almost there. Get off the road. I'm trying to get some last minute stuff done, for crying out loud. What are you all doing out there? Stop it. Are you all procrastinators just like me? I have one more Secret Santa gift that I have to get. It's a whole big thing. I mean, I just remembered it today. So I'm going to be out there in the morning. Get out of my way. That's not very Christmassy, is it? Sorry. Which camera? Jess. Yeah, this is a conversation change, because I wrote this is a conversation change, and unfortunately, it's a heinous crime that may be affecting that. All of a sudden, they don't have no internet in North Korea. They're good in North Carolina, but they're not good in North Korea. You know, when the studio's a little warm, this is the way it gets for me. But anyway, electric increase, big a time. Speaking of warm, your bills are going to be going up as you try to stay warm over the winter. Not good. There's got to be a better solution for this. What else do we have? Yeah, pay it back. Well, that's $180,000. That's going to be difficult. And come the turn of the new year, there's going to be some serious cuts coming, because we still haven't been able to get a hold of what's going on with our state budget. Of course, your state of mind is always important to me. So let's dig in on the conversation change and more. And it feels like that, although this is no way to get there, right? Here's the headline in the Huffington Post. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio calls for pause and protests after police killing. Good, because his rhetoric really hasn't helped the conversation. Here's the latest from CBS.
Investigators continue to piece together the suspect's final moments. They say Ismael Brinsley assassinated Officer Wenjin Liu and Rafael Ramos out of vengeance for recent deaths of black men at the hands of police. On CBS This Morning, Police Commissioner Bill Bratton said many questions about the suspect remain.
He seems to have had money, cashing $100 bills, so we're checking very closely all of his relationships. What was his world like? And we're very adept at that. We have some of the best detectives in the world.
The commissioner is downplaying tensions between City Hall and New York's finest, saying every mayor and police force has had its squabbles throughout history.
This is a heinous crime. A heinous crime. These two officers out of nowhere, God forbid, you know, and it's a random act of hatred. So I'm not ready to say it's part of any kind of anything out there. What it has done in a really, really kind of creepy way has calmed the rhetoric down just a little bit on both sides, and a lot of this anti-police conversation that's been going on, combined with the holidays, I think is probably going to get that done. But a lot of people are stepping up, organizations stepping up to help those families of those police officers. Pray. What a terrible time of year. What a terrible thing to have happened. Move on to the next item. Those families aren't moving on. All of a sudden, they don't get no internet in North Korea. I hate it when that happens. New York Times headline. Here's a funny thing. Only about 1 million people out of that vast population in North Korea actually even know what the internet is, I guess. Even their smartphones don't connect to the internet, so why do they have smartphones? Just to be fashionable, I guess. Latest on the flap with Sony, North Korea et al.
Monday's outage completely cut off North Korea's online access to the rest of the world.
There would be periods of time it was out for an hour or more, and then finally just completely went offline.
You want us to assassinate the leader of North Korea?
Yes.
The blackout came just days after the FBI blamed North Korea for a devastating hack on Sony Pictures. President Obama promised North Korea would pay some proportional price.
And we'll respond in a place and time and manner that we choose.
So Monday's blackout in North Korea fueled speculation the outage may have been retaliation by the U.S.
Yeah, it could have been China, because it's a Chinese company that supplies most of the internet activity in North Korea. Yeah, it could have been anybody, you know. Maybe just a little message back that you're not as well situated as you think you are, North Korea. Here's the weird thing about this. Sony is actually going to release the movie on Christmas Day in a limited amount. There are some theaters that are going to take it. So all this hullabaloo, that was its original launch date anyway. I bet you over the course of time, that thing will be one of the biggest box office smashes only because of curiosity. I have no idea if it's a good movie. What if it stinks? What a letdown that would be. A lot of people are let down over electric rates. The PUC had its hearing today, yes, 2 days before Christmas, and voted on National Grid's effort to grab 24% for a 6-month period of time. Instead, they spread it out. Sean Daly filed this report for Eyewitness News.
Inside at an open meeting of the Rhode Island Public Utilities Commission, protests that started out noisy grew even noisier as the meeting went along.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
But in the end, the Public Utilities Commission voted not to reject National Grid's request for a rate hike, but to spread it out over 12 months instead of 6 months. This makes it a monthly rate increase of roughly 17% instead of roughly 24%.
It's a pipeline issue.
I have to plan my budget to plan for emergencies. If something happens, I'm prepared. Why can't the utility company plan accordingly?
Now, these are the environmental types that show up to these things, and God bless them for doing so. Somebody's got to keep the PUC's feet to the fire, but clearly it was ineffective today because they spread out, instead of the 24, as Sean correctly pointed out, they, almost 17% across the board. Listen, the PUC and National Grid have to do a better job of marketing the idea that you don't have to buy your electric from National Grid. Now, I'm not talking about huge savings here, and it depends on what the competitive companies can offer you speculatively in the marketplace. But National Grid makes no money on their electric. That's why they say, oh, well, we've got a whole natural gas power problem here, so, the source is more expensive, so we just need to pass that along. They don't want to take a hit on the infrastructure side, which is where they make all the money, and of course on the natural gas commercial and residential sales. Point here is that this might be the increase that gets everybody awake in Rhode Island to say, we don't have to purchase the electricity from the people who give you the poles and the wires. And the State General Assembly better start putting some pressure on the PUC, at least to market that better. There are other states that do a better job in marketing that concept, and we need a more informed consumer. We need a better informed consumer so that you know that you can shop. Most people don't even know you can do that. We'll have more on that in the new year, I can promise you. This poor guy, boy, when I said this poor guy on the radio today, people almost, sent me coal in my stocking. The headline here on WPRI.com, yep, he's got no retirement benefits anymore. So this is the fire chief, embattled, right? The guy who got caught by the Eyewitness News Target 12 cameras, with playing golf, allegedly, reportedly on company time, taxpayer time, hitting the bars, running around with his vehicle, maybe smoke a little ganja and keeping it in the truck, allegedly, reportedly, all that kind of thing. Well, he now has got no pay in suspended status as the Coventry fire chief, but he was in North Providence for a long time and left in 2007 with some kind of 20-year plan for health benefits and COLA increases on his base pension that's taken care of by the state. And then he went to Johnston. Well, somehow, through a reporter request, the state retirement board was looking for some data from North Providence, and they couldn't verify that he was in North Providence long enough to be able to have all the entitlements that he does. And so they've put a $180,000 value on that and are sending him a bill. Can you spell bankruptcy? Merry Christmas, Chief. Been a tough run ever since Tim White showed up at the firehouse, huh? And what's the next one? Oh, yes. I forgot to mention that Charlie Lombardi, the mayor of North Providence, who was chasing the 180 grand, he even felt a little, problem with it during Christmas.
It was going to, wait until, wait a couple more weeks, but the attorney said you can't do that, you can't wait. And then I guess just because you get a hot this time of the year, and I'm saying, oh man. But the numbers are the numbers. I didn't create the problem. My job is to straighten it out, and I've been advised you need to hit this quick, and that's what we've done.
December 23rd, fa la 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 la, you owe us 180 grand. And speaking of the numbers, we got a lot of cuts coming. Nick Maciel, the Speaker of the House, has proffered that this budget is going to be difficult again. Here's the Journal headline that talks about it. In specific, he's referring to the healthcare exchange, which is kind of a source of pride for all those who've built this vehicle for you to buy your health insurance. It's the best run one in the country, so they say, but it's going to cost us about $20 million in the state budget when the federal put runs out. And while the arguments are that we can make this thing work and we can make it cost effective, just give us some time, we might be running out of time. I will tell you that this winter will be a very, very important conversation. Regina Raimondo in for the first time, Nick Mattiello, putting his flag down as the powerful guy as the House Speaker. We've got a couple of $100 million that we got to find toot sweet, and I know you don't want it coming out of your pocket, and neither do I. So we'll have plenty of conversation about that. Your state of mind is important to us. You call us by dialing 228-1886. Email us, tweet at us, Facebook post. Here's one. This is about North Korea, I guess. Well, obviously. Well, what else could they do? If North Korea retaliate, then Sony will be blamed and ordered to have sensitivity training. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I don't know, Red Miller, but guess what? You're late, because this afternoon, Sony decided that that movie, as I said earlier in the broadcast, will be released in limited fashion on Christmas Day. And so it goes. And the internet's working as we speak in North Korea, but that's not a promise for the long term. When we come back, ending hunger, improving the economy, one man's idea. Stay with us. This gentleman is somebody who's dialed my radio program on numbers of occasions whenever I say we need the big idea and we need to improve the economy and da-da-da-da-da. Check out this stream of conscience here.
Raising taxes and fees while cutting social services seems to be the new norm. I'd like to propose an alternative. How about generating more revenue? How about addressing the root cause of hunger and poverty by helping local business prosper, which improves our economy and subsequently gets folks back to work?
Steve, you've been advocating for concepts like this for quite some time, correct?
Definitely, yeah. We've been working to help end hunger, create food-secure communities in Rhode Island for over 25 years.
Food-secure communities.
Yes, the ending hunger conversation has evolved to, talk about food security, where people have access to food and nutritional food, rather than just looking at the result of not having food security.
So Steve Maciel is a guy who's working for a living. Oh, that camera, sorry, Jess. He's working for a living. He's in media sales, but his avocation here, his work is with this End Hunger Foundation. And you've called my radio program on numbers of occasions talking about the way to the big idea to create a better economy here and everything else. So marry the two concepts for me.
Sure. We will always do charity work. However, we have realized that we need to really go beyond charity to address the root cause of hunger and poverty, which is to improve the local economy. So we started thinking, well, what can we do to help that? And there's many things we can do within our existing infrastructure on Rhode Island to make that happen. We're coming forward with a 3-point proposal to the state, to our local business community, and to our citizens. And the first point of the agenda is for the state to always consider Rhode Island businesses first. So that initiative is called Rhode Island First, and it's a very simple but powerful concept to refocus our attention on Rhode Island businesses first.
What does it mean? I mean, I think, people get buy local concepts, so what are you saying?
This is buy local and so much more. The first part of the agenda is to convince our state to always, when they have a choice, discretionary spending, to always spend it with a Rhode Island business first, which doesn't happen yet. We only spend a fraction of our budget on Rhode Island businesses. I understand the whole bidding process, but this is something that when we have discretionary spending, let's focus on Rhode Island businesses, instead of going out of state like the big Providence P that we went out of state and spent all that money for when any freshman RISD student could have come up with that for us. So once we get the state to start paying attention to Rhode Island businesses and focusing on them and doing their procurements, what's called local sourcing, then we share that message with businesses and consumers and ask them to do the same. So it's setting example from the top down. And then the third part of the proposal is to focus on the things we are first at in Rhode Island rather than the things we're last at. You can't do a whole lot about the things you're last at until you focus on what you're good at. And one of those things that we're great at is tourism, the hospitality industry, arts and entertainment, retail. We had the first factory outlet in America. It was right up in the Ann Hope building. The birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution. The first enclosed mall was right over here at the arcade in Providence. So we have all this history, we have all this heritage, and you just can't buy that stuff. So my contention is we really need to focus on that and focus on a big way. And if you do this, this, and this will result. And the numbers are pretty staggering.
What numbers?
Well, for instance, if we were to just bring about a 10% shift in shopping and dining locally, there's a study that shows that, and this is all money we already spend anyway, that we would create $140 million in new economic activity, add 1,600 new jobs, and provide $50 million in new wages. And that's just consumer spending. If businesses were to do the same, and if the state was to do the same,
How does that go?
those numbers would
Who
triple.
quantified that number?
This is a study out of Michigan, I believe, with a similar population of about 1 million people, where they went out and ran the numbers, and it's local first. It's all there on the internet, the whole study.
And then that in turn, what, generates money for the general fund as well?
Well, of course, because, and like I say in the video, really all we talk about is raising taxes and cutting services. I say let's come right up the middle and start generating revenue. So for every dollar that gets dropped on a table in Rhode Island, it generates approximately 68 cents, stays in the local economy. Whereas, I'm not anti-big box, but when you shop at the big boys, only about 44 cents of each dollar stays in the local economy. So let's keep that money internally. It's money we already spend anyway.
Well, listen, spiritually, I'm with you. Logistically, I don't know how we can change the consumer mindset. So we'll talk more about that when we come back. Stay with us.
Legend has it that in 1524, the explorer Verrazano sailed his armada into Narragansett Bay and wrote in his captain's log, "I was so struck by the beauty, I decided to linger a fortnight." This was the first 2-week vacation in recorded American history.
Is that tourism humor?
It is a little bit of tourism humor, and you'd be amazed at how many people outside of the tourism industry that I ask that question of, why are we America's first resort?
Right.
And they don't know the answer. Oh, it's Newport. But you know, a fortnight is 2 weeks, and Verrazano stayed a fortnight in our bay.
So Steve's got this idea of Rhode Island first. I mean, it's actually a very simple concept. Has anybody coined it? Is it trademarked? Or anything
It's not. Much of the work I do is almost like steal this idea. You know, I want it to be kind of an open source, like an open source software where we just adopt it statewide.
Well, you have listen, I would think you're following your professional instinct. As a guy who's a media representative and you sell for the South County Independent.
Yes.
You're mixing with everyday small businesses every single day, and you know how hard it is for them to grind out their ad budgets and the like. So I'm sure you've got a running empathy for how hard it is and how important it is to maintain local business. So, right?
I'll tell you, Dan, I've been on the road selling various things for over 30 years, and you hear it all the time. What's going on out there? There's nothing going on. What can we do?
Yeah.
So I'm coming forward with this, very simple but powerful plan for what to do.
All right. Well, you didn't get the invite to Gina's thought
I tried to invite
deal.
myself. I tried to make myself the 81st.
Well, I mean, people watch. I'm glad you came on because I think these ideas need to catch fire. And she actually, in concept, is marrying your philosophy in the way, because she says we're going to grow our way out of this jam in Rhode Island. We're not going to tax or cut our way out. So you're talking about the same concepts. Here's the thing that bothers me. You talked about big box America. I've been long talking about the homogenization of the economic landscape, that every community in America looks like the same.
Sure,
with the same,
I've heard you talk about it many times.
Many times. I don't know this deep into the game how you motivate the consumer to make choices about where their money goes past the time that it leaves the register.
Here's my thoughts on that. I'm trying to bring about a 10% shift in all of our shopping and dining. So I'm taking away the guilt trip. This is not anti-big box, it's pro-small box. So all I'm saying is 1 out of 10 times, go out of your way to shop at a local hardware store rather than Home Depot.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to not shop at Home Depot. Hey, nobody's a bigger proponent of shop small than me, but I still go to Home Depot occasionally. But 1 out of 10 times, I make sure I go local. So it's a simple thing, but very powerful, and the numbers prove it out.
Okay, so what are you going to do with your plan? How do you think you're going to catch fire here?
The first one day when I called into your radio show, you kind of yelled at me and said, "All right, Maciel, go out and form your consortium and come back and see me."
I yelled at
so you totally did, right over the air. And I said,
I
"All
hate it when
right,
that
I hear
happens.
you." So you were right. And so for the last year or so, I've been pulling this. Please don't read the names over the air. We can talk about them separately.
that's
but
fine, yeah.
these are people, mostly in this left column here, who have learned about the plan and said, "You know, you're onto something here." And then the folks on the right, I've been showing the plan to, and some of
good.
them.
So
you know,
you've got a good network here.
then, our next step is to share the proposal, gather input. We're going to build a database of supporters who want to see this plan happen. Then we're going to create this virtual alliance. Not a lot of meetings, not top-heavy at all. It's all shared responsibility, what I call diversified responsibility. We've already done a test market with the 2 major hotels in South County, and now we're going to take it out and beta test it and roll it out.
And how does the test look? I mean, we only got a half a minute here. What's it look like? I mean,
Well, one of the things we do, it sounds almost silly, but we work with Discover Rhode Island gift baskets. So when you book your room at the hotel, you show up, you get in, whatever the best deal is, whatever the room rate is, and here's your Discover Rhode Island gift basket. And it's all full of Rhode Island products and deals and steals and places to go and things to do. And what it does, the idea is to not only attract more people into our accommodations, but then to drive them out onto Main Street. So it's a very simple,
all right. Well, listen.
very powerful
I
thing.
view your work is not gimmicky. It's well thought out. In the new year, as you make some progress, let's have you back, and we'll get you on the radio where I won't yell at you, and we'll take some calls and we'll brainstorm a little bit.
I appreciate it, Dan. Thank you very much.
The
same to you and your family.
One more thought. You know, when you have earnest people who have ideas, they need a place to be able to talk about them. And I think our last guest is earnest, and I think he ought to be listened to, and I think it's hard to argue putting Rhode Island first, don't you think? A special Christmas Eve show. We've got the kids back for some singing. You'll have to tune in to find out about it. So I hope you'll join us as we head toward Jesus' birth. Have a great night. Good night.